Well, reports came in last night that Vince McMahon was backstage at Raw, and apparently the overall consensus is he was there visiting John Cena. And, honestly, most of the reliable sources out there said that that was pretty much true, because that's exactly what he was doing. He was visiting John Cena, because John made his return last night on Raw, and essentially, as people put it, annihilated Austin Theory from a promo perspective in the process. Now, with that said, of course, there was a lot of worry. And that worry was the fact that, you hear Vince McMahon backstage, and even though various other reports say he was just visiting, there are some reports that said he was in gorilla position, that he was sitting down in gorilla. Now, even though apparently he had nothing to do with gorilla, a lot of people feel like, oh, it's just the first step and everything. And it's like, it's like a lot of folks that are hearing others complain about this, they're like, seriously, you need to stop. This is getting tiresome. It's getting ridiculous. And, look, as I've said numerous times when I've talked about this, everybody has a right to their opinion. There is no getting around it. Everybody has a right to their opinion. I have a right to my opinion. You have a right to yours and stuff like that. Everybody has a right to their opinion. But, a lot of people were making a big deal about it yesterday. Even Meltzer and Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez kind of were hinting at the fact that, oh, there's got to be more to it than just him visiting. Look, here's the situation. Whatever issue Dave Meltzer has with Vince McMahon, look, we get it. Vince may have humiliated him on national television and he has a gripe with him, or maybe Vince didn't hire him or something. It's like, here's the thing. Get over yourself. Get over yourself, Meltzer. And Alvarez, same thing with you. What happened? Did you try out for WWE and they didn't hire you? Or they didn't bring you on to the Get over yourselves. Maybe they just didn't see, anything in you. And mostly maybe the fact that they don't like the idea that people are going to come out and just say, oh, well, this is what I see happening because I observe it the way it happening this way. It's like, get over yourselves. And here's the thing. And I say with all due respect to people like JD and Alex. JD sometimes relying, if you will, depending on reliable sources that most of the time have been on the up and up when it comes to reporting news, maybe relying on them on what's going on in WWE is probably the best way to go. I get it. You and a lot of other people, you're fearful. You're allowing Vince and what he did in the past to live rent-free in your head. I mean, anytime you see something that resembles Vince, or you hear this about Vince, and it may not have no real truth to it, or even no background to it, you're allowing that past trauma that he put you through live rent-free in your head, and you're like, oh no, Vince is back. He's going to kill the company. Oh! And this is what makes you guys into targets. This is what makes you guys into targets for people to do to you what John Cena basically did to Austin Theory last night. And that's roast you, fillet you, basically bury you 6 feet under. This is what allows them to call you out and say, oh, stop complaining, you're being a mark. This is what caused Konnan, the Lucha Libre legend himself, to call out JD. The thing is, we get it. You don't want Vince anywhere near the company, period. You want someone that's a wrestler to give you good pro wrestling. And we get it. We understand that. But just because certain things are going on doesn't mean, oh, Vince is going to take over. You need to stop feeding into that paranoia and fear and stop letting someone like Vince and what he did in the past live rent-free in your head. Because sooner or later, your colleagues are going to call you out about it. I mean, you and your co-commentator, Solomonster, between you two, Solomonster's the more sensible one of you guys. He is. He's the more sensible one out of you guys. When it comes to talking about this stuff. I mean, when he mentioned the whole Brock Lesnar-Omos situation, he basically said, look, Triple H probably did that to appease Vince. That maybe Vince suggested it to him, and he felt like, well, I have no other choice. and probably realizing that, hey, it's going to keep Vince away from creative for the time being, or even soothe that temptation, he went with it. He went with it. That is how Salamaster looks at it. He doesn't look at it so much in the doom and gloom as other people like you, JD, or Alex, well, not Alex entirely, but you, JD, and others look at it. You guys need to stop. If you have a problem with Vince, why don't you buy a ticket to WrestleMania, find a way backstage, and if he's there, confront him and say, "Don't you dare come back to WWE, don't you understand? We are about pro wrestling." Why don't you do that? Because, again, you keep doing this kind of stuff, and it makes you a mark. It turns you into a target to be dubbed that. It turns you into a target to get roasted, filleted, and basically put in your place by those, by those that do podcasts like you and those that are in the business. I mean, the last thing you need is for Triple H to come out on a freaking post-conference media call or post-conference, event after Mania and call you out. And basically point you out as being somebody that is nothing more than a fan, a shield for a company he once looked at as piss, a piss t-shirt company, if you will. Piss and t-shirt company. That's the last thing you need. That's the last thing you need. And look, like I said, everybody has a right to their opinion. JD has a right to his opinion. There's no doubt. But his opinion is going to get him in trouble. Sooner or later, someone more notable and noteworthy than anyone else is going to call him out and basically put him in his place. Then what? Then what is JD going to do? What are people like JD going to do? What are people like Alex, if that happens to him, going to do? What are people like Salamas, if it happens to him, what's he going to do? Alvarez, Meltzer, what are they going to do when that moment happens that somebody calls them out on the BS? On the paranoia and the fear? Or the unjustification? What then? How are they going to reply then? They won't. They won't be able to reply then because they're going to be stuck in a situation where it's like, oh crap. Now what do? They called us out. They basically pointed out all these things. What do you do then? Well, how do you reply? How do you come back from that? That is the question. You don't. So if I'm JD, and if I'm others like JD, like Alex, to an extent, Salamaster to an extent, and others, Meltzer and Alvarez, my advice to you, as a friend, as a fellow fan, someone that supports you and follows you and respects what you've done, for the wrestling community and for the wrestling business, as someone that's in that area, that position, my suggestion to you, keep it to yourself. Keep the thoughts, the fear and the paranoia to yourself. Put it on the shelf when you do your podcast and be neutral. Be unbiased. Because if you don't, what happened to Austin Theory at the hands of John Cena? Someone noteworthy and everything is going to do the same thing to you. And that's all I'm going to say. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below. Comment if you like. Live chat during the premiere. And I'm out.